Connecting WordPress and Microsoft 365 and Azure AD is super easy. Hi, I'm Marco and I'm the developer for WPO365, and in today's video I would like to show you how easy it is to send WordPress emails using Microsoft Graph instead of using SMTP. To get started, the first thing that I will do is to install a WPO365 plugin that would enable this functionality. So to do that, I go to my website. I'm already logged in as an administrator, and I will go to plugins. And here I will click to add a new plugin to the website. I will search for WPO365 and I will install the WPO365 Graph Mailer for Microsoft. And I click Install Now. You may see that there is an other plugin, the WPO365 Mail integration for Outlook 365 and Outlook. But please don't install that. Even though you can see that it has a lot more installations, this plugin has been recently transferred to us, to WPO365, and we're currently in the process of migrating the users, or urging the users of this plugin to migrate to the new plugin, the WPO365 Microsoft 365 Graph Mailer plugin. So, before we continue, there is one more thing. If you plan to implement Microsoft-based single sign-on for your website, and you would like to enable your WordPress website to send its emails using Microsoft Graph, then you should not install the Microsoft 365 Graph Mailer plugin, but instead you should install the WordPress plus Microsoft Office 365 Azure AD login plugin. This is kind of the all-in-one solution, I would say, to connect Microsoft 365 and Azure AD with your WordPress website. The Graph Mailer plugin is a spin-off of this plugin. So if you're planning to implement single sign-on and use Microsoft to log into your WordPress website, then install this plugin and not the Graph Mailer plugin. But you can still follow along in this video. The same component, the Graph Mailer component that is presented in this video, and the same configuration pages you'll find also in the WPO365 login plugin. I've installed the plugin and I only need to click to activate this plugin. And well, obviously this is not it, because I need to configure it. After I installed the plugin, you will see that there is a new menu in your admin sidebar, WPO365. So I click that, and when I click it, you will see that the sending of emails with Microsoft Graph is currently disabled. So I can click here to disable this, and I confirm that I want to enable this functionality. You will also notice the link for the online documentation, and obviously I really recommend that you have a look at the online documentation. First thing that you'll see is a list of the features that are supported by the free version, by the Microsoft Graph Mailer. Of course, that is the delivery of WordPress emails using Microsoft Graph instead of SMTP. There's also the option, and I will get back to that a little bit later, to choose between using application level permissions and delegated permissions. And please keep in mind that sending emails using Microsoft Graph using delegated permissions is the recommended approach. You can also choose to save items sent in the Send Items folder of the mailbox that you configure to send emails as HTML and to include attachments. But there's a little catch here. The attachments should be smaller than 3 megabytes in size. Then there are options to test the configuration before you decide that everything is okay. And included is also the support for WordPress Multisite. Let's have a quick look at the paid premium features that you would unlock if you would install the WPO365 Mail extension. And you can follow the link to see the details on pricing. Let's get back to where we were. So first of all, you would unlock the ability to send attachments larger than 3 megabytes. I think according to the documentation you could even send attachments as large as 150 megabytes, but I don't think you really want to try that. Second up there is the ability to send WordPress emails from a Microsoft 365 shared mailbox. And also the option is there to include the Azure AD secrets in the WP-Config file. Normally, if you leave things as they are, those secrets will be stored in the database, and of course bringing them into the WP-Config file would make things a little bit more secure. Another advantage of storing the data or the secrets in the WP-Config file would obviously be that it's easier for you to deploy using DevOps procedures. Another premium feature is the mail audit and resend functionality. So basically the premium extension would log every transactional email that is sent by WordPress, and it also allows you from the log view basically to try and resend an error, an email in case it was not sent successfully. Enough said to that, let's get started with the configuration of the Microsoft Graph Mailer plugin by WPO365. Before we do so, let's make sure that we are a global administrator for our Azure AD tenant, or at least know somebody who is and who can help us with the registration of our website, of our application in Azure AD. Also, it helps if you're an administrator of your WordPress website, otherwise you won't be able to add plugins and to configure this specific plugins. Let's get started. To get started, we need to register our WordPress application in Azure AD. And to do so, we need to go to portalazure.com. I already opened that in a new tab here. And here I would basically select the Azure Active Directory from the menu. And I would continue to the app registrations, the application registrations. And here I would click to register a new application. Well, I mean, basically you can choose any name that you like, but maybe in your company there's a naming convention. So let's say this is test 1 and it's for the video. So that's my name for this app registration. And I will use it only to support accounts in this organizational directory, because the mail account that we are going to use, use for sending mails using Microsoft Graph, that will be always an account in my tenant, not in somebody else's tenant. So that's okay. Then I would need to configure the URL where Microsoft will redirect us back to the moment that we authorize the website to send emails using an account in our Azure AD. So to configure this redirect URL, I would select the web platform and I would enter the website's URL. You can also quickly return basically to the plugin, to the configuration page, and here there's already a proposed redirect URL, and I really recommend that you copy this URL, and it must be exactly this URL that you then take back to Azure AD and that you paste here. If there's a slight difference, the last slash is missing or so, you will see an error later on. So I'm happy with this and I click to register my application. With the application registered in Azure AD, the next step that I want to do is to configure the token. Normally we are not using the token, the ID token, which is a token that Microsoft sends back to the website, the application that we are registering here. It's an ID token that would contain some information over the user account. However, the plugin uses this information to verify whether the account really exists that we are trying to register. So I add an optional claim for the ID token, and I would here add at least the email address and the UPN. So I check UPN and I scroll back up to email and I click add, and I also can immediately here already add some permissions. We get to this step later, but by checking this box and by adding the permissions, we will see these permissions already being added in basically what is now the next step. So I configured the ID token and I now continue to the API permissions. And this is where I see that email and profile have now been added, and that's because we added the ID token. But we need one permission more. And since we are configuring so-called delegated permissions, we can add a new permission for Microsoft Graph of type delegated. And these permissions can only be used for a single user account. And so application permissions, you have to understand, are permissions that the plugin can use without a logged in user. And if you then take this into the context of sending an email with application permissions, the plugin would be able to send email as any account in your Azure AD. Whereas what we are configuring now are delegated permissions, and now the plugin will only be able to send email using the account that we configure. So that's a way, more secure, I would say, limited, a risk limited or damage limitation approach. If you say we take the delegated permissions, we want only to send emails with this one account. We don't want somebody, a rogue user, to come to our website, hack our website, and start sending emails as our CEO or using the old address maybe. So to prevent all of that, really, it's recommended take the delegated permission. So I click mail, I enter mail sent that I want to do that, and I add permissions to send mail as a user. I previously talked briefly about the premium options to send email on behalf of others from a shared mailbox. If you want to enable that feature, you must also add here the mail send shared permission. So let's do that just simply right now. And I click add permissions. And actually, if we want to also allow for sending attachments larger than 3 MB, then we need to enable the plugin to create a draft email. So that is not only to send an email that we prepared, basically offline, but we want to be able to create a new email message and then save that as a draft, then start to upload the attachment before we then send it. And to be able to do that, we need to add another permission. We need to add the delegated permission for mail, read and write. So let's have a look here. Here we can see that there is a mail, read, write, and that would allow us to read mail, to write draft emails. So let's do that. And if that is combined with sending large attachments from a shared Microsoft 365 account, then we also need to add another permission to read, write from a shared account. So let's do that, and let's add the permissions here as well. So what I've now added are also the permissions for the premium extension. If you don't use the premium extension, you only need to have here mail send, user read, email and profile. You can then ignore adding the other permissions. So I'm happy for this. And now, as a last step, to confirm that these permissions may be used by users in this tenant, I need to grant admin consent. And I click this button and I click yes. If this button appears to be grayed out for you, then you don't have the permissions to grant such admin consent, and you need to contact somebody in your organization to do this for you. Without admin consent being granted, you're probably not able to successfully complete the configuration of the plugin and the configuration of the permissions. So, with this out of the way, we actually have only one thing left, and that is to create a secret. The plugin will be able to connect independently from you to Microsoft Graph, and when it does so, it needs to authenticate, and therefore this application that we registered, it will be identified later by a so-called application ID, and it also will need kind of a password, and that's the secret. So let's create one. I click certificates and secrets, and I click to add a new client secret. I leave the description for what it is, and I leave the recommended period of validity for 6 months, and I say add. Now you need to be very careful. An error that I've seen so many times happening is that now you start copying the secret ID, but we are not interested in the secret ID. We are only interested in the value, the secret value. So let's copy this to our clipboard already. And I know in the documentation it says copy this now to, I don't know, a password management system, and or keep it offline for a moment and paste it into a notepad, but I'm going to do something different. I already have it on my clipboard, so I quickly go back to the WPO configuration pages here, and I just simply already paste the secret in its corresponding field to configure the plugin. Then I got that out of the way. Obviously, there are a few things now that you need to be careful with. This secret expires on the 16th of May 2023. So you need to make sure that before this date you create a new secret and replace the value replace the value also in the plugins configuration, or else your website won't be able to send emails. So that's very important. So we've basically now configured the redirect URL. We've configured the API permissions, the token, we've created the secret. We're basically done. So what is next? Well, we need to copy over the application ID and the tenant ID to the configuration of the plugin. So I start with the directory ID. So I copy this to the clipboard and I switch back to my plugin configuration pages, and I simply paste that value here. I switch back to Azure Portal and I copy the application ID, and of course switch back again to the configuration pages of the plugin, and I paste this value here. And now you see that basically I don't see any red here, but what I do see is that here it says unauthorized. You may notice that each time when something changes here in this area, that there will be a little spinner, and basically the application is simply checking with these details. Did I save previously an authorization object in the database, yes or no? So that's the spinner that you see. If it says here unauthorized, then it means you still need to click the authorize button. But who am I authorizing? I would need to now identify the user as which that I want my emails to be sent. And it is so basically the user's email box. So I take, in my case, a user account in my domain that is Ellen at WPO365.com. And I would like that all my emails that I send with my website come from Ellen. So I enter this address, you again saw the spinner here, and now I can click authorize. I do get a little warning, and it says that if you want to configure application level permissions, then actually don't authorize. But we can ignore it. Yes, we do want to authorize, so I simply click authorize. And now I'm taken to Microsoft. The account has already been pre-selected. I simply need to enter the password for Ellen. So I quickly check my password management system to get the password for Ellen, and I paste it, and I sign in as Ellen, and I'm returned. I'm sent back to the website, and as you can see here now, two things have changed. Here it says authorized with an exclamation mark, means we are actually configured, we're set up to send emails, and we have configured delegated permissions. If for some reason I would like to remove this authorization object from my database, I can very simply just uncheck this box and it is deleted, and it already says here unauthorized. If I now want to still send emails using this account, I can simply click the authorize button again and repeat what we saw before. However, this came really quick. This went really quick because I already signed in with Microsoft, and this website is actually hosted at AWS, and I've never seen a website perform faster as this light sail instance of Bitnami. I'm very happy with that. Yes, so that's a little promo there. I don't get paid for that. So let's scroll down a little bit now. So I think I have configured most of it, and as you see, I can say check here the box that I want every email that I send to be saved in the sent items folder, and I can say should my emails be sent as HTML or text, but I leave it as this, and now I can try and send a test email. So let's send myself an email, and I can also test to send emails to recipients, but I leave that for now, and I can also try and include an attachment just to see that that's working as well. With this configured, I can say save configuration and send a test email. And you already see this email has been sent successfully, and you can of course check your inbox to see that it also really arrived. What happens if you would just make a change and you don't want to send a test email? So you would have maybe this field remains empty and you click save configuration and then it says failed to send a test email. And that makes sense because we actually not configured any other address. Sometimes it will happen, it may happen, that it says send successfully and still no email arrives. What you need to be careful with is that you have disabled any other plugin that may have sent your emails before, that you have disabled these plugins before that you configure this plugin. Because otherwise there are basically I think 2 dogs fighting for a bone, and then the third comes and runs away with it. So really make sure that you have disabled all other plugins that may want to send WordPress emails. Before I let you go, I will take a moment of your time and show you quickly how you can install and configure the premium features. Let's take the example that I would be interested in sending from a shared mailbox. Say we have a shared mailbox at WPO365, sales@WPO365.com, and I would like to send emails from this, or I would like my WordPress emails to be sent from this mailbox. So then I would like to enable this currently locked feature. So I click for details and I can see the 3 plugins that would enable this feature. This is the extension, and sync and intranet are basically bundles that provide other WPO365 features as well. So I could actually click this link. I would say mail here, would open a new tab, and it would take me to the WPO365 website where I can continue and buy the license that suits me, and I can purchase and basically continue to the checkout page of the website, fill out the details, to the payment, etc. When that's the case, then you get an email, and the email will contain a download link, and the download link will help you to download the additional plugin, which is the extension for mail in this case, and you then need to upload that manually. So let's do that. Let's go to plugins and add new, and choose here upload plugin. I click choose a file, and I'm looking for the mail plugin that I just downloaded, and I click to open it and install it. I click to activate the plugin, and with this plugin in place, you can now see that I have 2 plugins installed. I have the WPO365 Mail plugin, which is the extension, and I have the WPO365 Microsoft 365 Graph Mailer installed. So with this plugin installed, let's go to the WPO365 configuration pages, and now you can see that all the premium options are basically unlocked. So I also want to log all emails sent, so let's actually save that quickly, and then I can click view logs, and you can see I did some testing prior, that's why the log is not empty. I can actually delete the log, and this is the log view that you then get, and there you can see all the emails sent or the errors only. Let's get back up a little bit, scroll up a little bit. So as Alan, I want to be able to send emails from a shared inbox, and that shared inbox is sales@WPO365.com. So for the authentication, the plugin would still use Alan's email address or a user account. But Alan, and we already prior in this video, you saw that I configured additional permissions to send emails from a shared mailbox. So with that configuration in place, Alan is able to send email from a shared mailbox, when he also has the permission to send from this mailbox in general. So with this configuration in place, I would like to send another test mail to myself, and then I would include an attachment just in case, and I would say save configuration, and it says failed to send a test mail. So I will check the log for the details. What is going on here? It says could not get an access token. Did I forget something? Yes, I think I did actually. Let's go back to the mail configuration page. Ooh, it says unauthorized here. That's true. I made a change in this area and I actually did not repeat the authorization. So let's do that. Let's click authorize. Let's authorize and let's see whether we can refresh this. We are authorized. That's great. As you can also see, so I made the error also to show to you that there is lots of debug information available, and you also see here the main error that we ran into before. It could not get an access token because we actually not regenerated it. I can also click here to dismiss the error. Once I've read this information, I can simply click to dismiss the error. Everything is back to normal. I'm still authorized. So let's now again try and send an email to myself to test whether this email will come from sales@WPO365.com. So let's save the configuration and send the test mail, and now it says that the test mail has been sent successfully. So let's have a quick look whether this is really the case. Here is the email that just was sent. It's formatted as HTML. There is an attachment here, and I can see that the email comes from sales inquiry. So if I look at the details here, I can see it comes actually from sales@WPO365.com. So I would say mission accomplished when we look at that. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions, then please don't hesitate and get in touch. On all the configuration pages, you will find a question mark in the right lower bottom corner. You can click it, it will open a beacon. And here you can identify yourself, say who you are, what's your email address, so that we can get in touch with you. And you can ask your question or the topic for which you need more information. Please don't hesitate. Also make sure that if you liked this video, then like it in YouTube, put the thumbs up icon and subscribe to our channel. We have regularly new videos that might be of interest for you. Also much appreciated would be if you would navigate to the WordPress.org plugins directory and you give us a 5-star rating. You must log in there, of course, to leave a review, but the more reviews, the better and the merrier. And the easier it is for others to choose this plugin. So it really helps others, your experience. So please don't hesitate. Last but not least, stay in touch with us. Go to the LinkedIn page and for downloads by Van Wieren, and make sure to follow us. And it's here where we have started recently to post about all the latest news for you. So make sure you follow us and you give us the regular thumbs up. That really helps to keep us motivated and tells others that it's a really interesting place to be. Thank you for watching.